9 boards of supervisors up and down the state that have funded these projects, up in a tune of about, just off the top of my head, probably almost $6 million. So the board of supervisors are recognizing this. So one of the things I've got with this board here, so this is one of the groups that we are working with. Does everybody know where La Cresta is across the freeway? Yeah. Okay, so one of the things that we were doing is working with La Cresta, and we were determining where were their existing dip sites. Okay, so if you look at Lake Elsinore, that's a big dip site, but it's 7.8, almost 8 miles away from La Cresta. Okay, so if you take that times 2, that's how long the helicopter's gone, that's how long he's burning fuel, and that's how long the fire is going to continue to grow. Okay, the reason I'm using this prop or this map or kind of a plan is until the community, like the Fire Safe Council or a city or city manager or a fire department, identifies and says these are our risk areas, like La Cresta. La Cresta has no standing water, and neither does Duluth. The closest standing water is the 3 submarine ponds next to the 15 freeway in Temecula. So they're either going to fly all the way to there, or they're going to go to Elsinore, and they have a golf course across the 15, but they normally get about 12 loads out of that because now it's not dredged. It's now black muck and mud that they're dropping. So then they leave and then they go and have to go somewhere else for water. So essentially what we do is we bring the water to the community. So that's just to kind of give you an idea. What we do is you can't ask for money. So let's say the Fire Safe Council said we need 1 or need 2 in safe. Unless you have a location, unless you have an identification of water, we have plans for where there is no water. We actually, does anybody know what a frac tank is? Okay, a frac tank is a mobile, transportable by a semi, 21,000 gallon tank. So if you were to put 1 or 2 of those tanks together, the initial attack, and it will keep the helicopter there on site, dropping the maximum amount of gallons per hour for your community. So the other thing that I want to say too is that we are working with CAL FIRE up in Sacramento. They have identified through legislation, because you guys have heard the Camp Fire and the Paradise Fire?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody in a high severity zone like this would definitely heard of that. So legislation required the year after that CAL FIRE identify every community that has 1 road in and 1 road out. And now they have those 2,100 locations identified, but the legislation didn't say what to do and how to protect and help them out. So one of the things our proposal is that if it's more than 2.5 miles away from an open water source, then we propose putting a dip tank in that community. So we have two types of systems, and I'm going to be very brief, I'm almost done. Is we have a pressurized one that would be connected to a regular water supply, like where you see all the hydrants in the street. That's a pressurized system that operates all by itself, and we just connect it to the hydrant or direct pipe it in, and it literally has the capability of continuously filling. You could have the military helicopter Chinooks, which take 3,000 gallons, and it won't even displace the water more than 1.5 feet. And then by the time he reels up that hose that you see on TV, and he lifts up, and it's already full. So with a pressurized system, it never fails. 4 of our units were on the Palisades fire. And it was, he lives in Altadena, okay?
Oh.
If LA County, and a very specific assistant chief for 1.5 years, who fought to have one airlifted, first one ever, into place in front of the security road for JPL, there would not have been a dip tank, and ours was the primary dip tank for that fire, that it didn't move farther west and start going into other communities. So, go ahead.
Yeah, how big of an open area do you need for?
The tank is 8 by 16. It's 3,700 gallons. We also have larger ones for areas where there isn't a lot of water available, so it gets fuller immediately. Basically, it fills in 4.5 minutes if it's on a pressurized system. If you have elevation of a tank and you let it gravity feed, it can refill automatically by itself as well.
Yeah, but it has to be filled with groundwater, right?
Yes, typically, well, one of two ways. You can either fill it with groundwater, you can fill it with a spring, you can fill it with water tenders that you would pre-place and pre-charge those cache of water in advance.
Yeah, because we get 100 gallons a minute at 800-foot gallon.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's why we're talking about the 21,000 gallon tanks that you place. And that way, while it's rainy season or while there's plenty of water, you accumulate that water source for that. And then either one of two things happens. If you don't have a pump and gravity feed that's going to fill it, then you can have an engine, which what they used to do before a tank exists like ours, where the engine would come and connect to the tank and then transfer it to that.
I got a holding pond that's 400 foot long by 200 foot wide by 9 foot deep.
Perfect.
Does that work?
Heck yeah. 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 And if they see it from there, clear the cattle, clear the horses, they're coming for it. What's that?
I said, don't look up when it's raining. I don't.
Right.
I didn't want the city or the county to come in and tell me that it's.
Right. Yeah. So basically, there's two things. One of the reasons why the helicopter dip tank was, why we created it is for twofold. If you've noticed, most everybody here has got an idea. You remember when MASH used to have that bubble helicopter? Okay. They used to have a little 25 gallon bladder that would try to fight fire. That's how it all started. Okay. Now they've got 3,000 gallon Chinooks. Okay. And the old tanks just don't hold up to that rotor wash. I mean, these things are flying hurricanes. So now you've got to have a capability of, you've got to upgrade your system. The other situation that we want to do is, if you guys have limited ingress, egress, I heard all about it when I drove up here, I already knew it. You guys reiterated it to the developer. And your traffic nightmare is the biggest nightmare for law enforcement and for responding fire department, because this is your local fire department. And the cavalry's going to come, but they got to be able to have an open road to get here. Correct. But here's the thing. If you have the helicopters can fly over the top of that. So one of the things that we're trying to do is, through the community, through CAL FIRE, we're listening to their advice and say, where are you exposed where there's no open water source to where we can put a tip tank and help protect the community.
Yeah, so what exactly are you asking from the community, and how much are these tanks?
Good question. What we're trying to do is educate you guys on what is available. And the reason why I'm saying that is, usually we're working through fire safe councils, or we're working through other organizations or cities or counties. So foundations, yeah. Remember when I was talking about the board of supervisors and different entities? They provide the funding for them. So, I mean, the cost of them is basically $75,000 each. Now, there's also a permanent infrastructure version of ours, which is another competitor, the only two that autofill, okay? Theirs is $300,000 each. You can put in 4 for one of ours.
You might want to mention that if you're going to see your supervisor, because he has paid the higher price from other locations. And
with the other product that's more expensive.
What we really need is a plan to go to him and ask for the money, because without a plan, we really don't have an ask.
Right. And again, they'll listen to the fire safe council because it's the community, and the community needs or wants it, versus if a vendor
I would
goes
ask
to talk to them. But
also look at your fire safe, your wildfire plan, community wildfire plan, to make sure that water availability is part of that plan.
Right.
Maybe the fire safety council can make sure that's, because it's one of the qualifications for the plan, to get some of the state funding.
right, so you can't get grants and you can't get funding if it's not on the list showing it's a priority.
That's why it's a community-led program. That's why we're here, is to
Right.
get your assistants to lead the program. As an elevated fire survivor, I lost my house, not this year, in 25. I did lose my house in 93 and have been involved in wildfire recovery ever since. And so the idea of having the community make the effort is everything to actually have us be able to help you and assist you. And we do. We'll help you right where to go, where to talk to organizations and funding sources that will be available.
Any other questions?
So these tanks, do they have to have access to like a well? Or are there tanks that you guys just fill up with water and they're there?
Yes and yes. So let me add, there were two questions there.
And are you looking for places to put them?
Yes,
Okay.
there's a third yes. So yes, we're looking for host locations to answer his question as well is, so the way the plan normally works when we put this together is we need to find a host location that's willing to host it and have helicopters fly over their property. Second thing is it helps that if you have existing water, that helps. If you don't, then basically we need to have the area in which to stage the tanks that are pre-filled to where you now have to have not only a tank, meaning the HeloPod for helicopter dipping, but about 200 to 300 feet away, you have to have the 12,000 or 21,000 or another 21,000 or however many the fire department thinks that they need for either filling ground engines or helicopters. And then at that point in time, now we have a plan. Now, if it's sponsored through, I'm just giving you an example. If it's sponsored through a city or sponsored through the Fire Safe Council, then at that point in time, you can go to the board of supervisors and say, I would like some funding. I would like, and here's our plan. And this is where we're going to put it. And this is where it's going to cost, and so on and so forth. And then at that point in time, the community gets the protection they need.
Our closest location right now, that we've identified a potential spot, is in the Great Coral. There's a right there. So they have water availability. And we're looking, we have a potential host.
Can you hold
in the
this?
Great Coral. We just now, our next step is to come this far, 5 miles in,
Thank you.
and say, find another location.
Well, how close are we to Diamond Valley Lake?
I think it's over 9 miles minimum.
Really?
I think so. I'd have to look at it again. But
We've got a host with residents, a local board nursery is offered a host. And I'm saying that,
So what is the host benefit to having one of these on their property?
Well-
Besides the water being right there.
well,
in case it's
the
fire.
first and foremost is when air cavalry arrives and comes in, where are they coming?
My place.
Where are the tank and where are the water?
I lost my place in 2022.
I'm sorry.
The Fairview fire. So.
When we do this, that's what we talk to people who've lost their houses.
I'm a fire-
And that's why he's so passionate and working, trying to get this done.
I have empty 5-acre lots, so we're beside me.
Okay. So 5 acres is a great amount. The issue is what other obstructions like power lines, power poles, trees, various things like that. So the fire department will do that. So the next step, once a host and the water is identified, the next thing we do is we talk to fire and we ask their aviation group to come fly it
Okay.
and say, is this safe for them to come approach, hover, and then take off while they're full?
And of course,
So-
the neighbors would have to say yay or nay.
Yeah. Typically, that's the case. Now, but I haven't had a neighbor of one of those ever object unless they have a herd of cattle or they had a whole bunch of horses. But also, most of the time, the helicopter folks will see those and they'll just kind of circle around a little bit and it'll kind of clear them out of the way. We normally wouldn't put it on a postage stamp piece of property. And we make sure that we are considerate of the wildlife. The Cal Fire helicopter pilots are going to make sure that they're not too close to buildings and so on
I'm
and so
right
forth.
beside the riverside, what is it, county reserve or whatever. There's no buildings on the one piece.
Perfect. So the best thing to do is talk to him and give him your information and he can give you stuff. And then one of the things that we're doing is we're trying to gather the host locations and that have the host locations, and then at that point in time, go from there and then be able to present the plan to the board of supervisors and or other funding sources. There's community foundations.